Is this everyone who was out there, Ricardo? Okay, so if everybody wants to mute themselves for sound quality until we have a chance to communicate with each other, that'd be great. So welcome everybody. It's good to see you all, some familiar faces, returning faces, and some new folks, so welcome. I'm Bonnie Rose Marcus, Director of the Readings and Workshops Program East and Writers Exchange. And this is our second virtual town hall meeting, so we're very excited and very new. I also want to introduce some of the other staff at Poets and Writers. So Ricardo Hernandez is the program associate, and he's the co-host and he's been helping with all the technical aspects. I don't know what I would have done without him, not only for this, but everything else he offers to the program. Much gratitude. Also want to say, introduce you to Elliott Figman, the Executive Director of Poets and Writers, who is guiding us through this transition with great ease. And, you know, it's just been a journey for all of us. And I think Dan Tran is here, Dan Tran Kong Huen, who is our McCrindle Fellow this year, has been here for 9 months and has been a great asset to our program. So welcome to staff. And then also big welcome to our special guest today, Sara Saleh, who I will introduce a little bit later, just after I do a bit of an introduction. Excuse me. So today, I'm going to just talk a little bit about our journey from doing live events to virtual events. And then Sara is going to be guide us through her experience and her expertise in coordinating and hosting virtual readings. And then we're going to have a nice period of time for you to ask questions and answers and for you to share with us some of what you're discovering in this new sort of realm that we're in, and any tips that you might have or challenges that you have that you think would be helpful to share with others. I'm just going to grab some water. I have a frog in my throat for a minute here. So also just for those that, I think most of you are pretty savvy, but for those that want to just know, you can, you know, muting yourself now is very good because it helps with sound quality. And when there's the question and answer period, obviously you can unmute yourself. And if you go down to the bottom of participants, you can also, there's a place that you can raise your hand, or you can just do it in your window as well. And there's also a chat if you want to send a message to someone or share some contact information. Also, it's a place that we might post some of our links as well. So that's also available for you. I think that's it. And then of course that you've already discovered reactions, some of you, which are hands or thumbs up. Just something to work with on this virtual, here she goes, on this virtual platform. So, so as we made our journey, as many people have, from working normally at our office to working remotely at home, we realized that we had to sort of figure out how we were going to run our readings and workshops program. I think most of you here know about the program, but in case there are a few that don't, the readings and workshops program started with the birth of Poets and Writers, which is now 50 years ago. We're celebrating our 50th year. And it started with the readings workshops program, which is a grant program that pays writers to give readings of their own work or conduct workshops with other participants. And we do this in many venues, many diverse venues in New York State, California, and 8 other cities. So obviously with this pandemic, we couldn't do live events anymore. And so we made the decision that we would fund virtual events, and we would try to keep it as close to our program and mission as possible. So the application process is similar. It has some changes. We still receive the applications from sponsoring organizations or venues on behalf of writers. And we also encourage writers to initiate this on behalf of themselves. And we will post and eventually send you after the meeting the link to our virtual guidelines, which is on our webpage, pw.org/funding. A couple of the highlights, last week we had a meeting which really focused on our virtual guidelines, and actually we recorded the meeting And Ricardo is also going to post a link to that recording. So if you want to check it out and you weren't here, you can do that. Just a couple of highlights for those of you that know our program, or even for those that don't. We've changed our deadline from a 6 to 8 week in advance of the event to a 4 week in advance of the event deadline. And in terms of paying the writers, once the application is approved, typically we send the checks to the sponsor to give to the writer on the day of the event or after the workshops, but obviously that's not possible. So the checks will be mailed directly to the writers, and we're making a very close tab on checking in with writers, knowing that sometimes right now people sometimes are not sheltering at their usual home base. So yeah, we still are very excited about, so far people that have done virtual events, readings and workshops have been really grateful to be able to connect, even though nothing is better than live, as I'm sure we all know. But the fact that we can pay writers during this time when many people have lost income, partial or fully, really is a thing that we really want to do. And also that we can still bring literature to a wide public and to underserved communities, which is part of our mission. We're still really happy that we can do that, and have gotten feedback from folks who have done our workshops and readings that this has been really, really a helpful sort of lifeline during this time that's very, very challenging. So we're happy that we were able to make this transition temporarily until it's safe to go back to live events. So I think, Ricardo, is there anything that you think I might have left out that you want to add, or? Okay, so I think then, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Sara Saleh. I'm just going to say a few words about her. Sara is a poet, educator, and native Michigander, a new word for me, from Michigan. She is the founding director of Office Hours Poetry Workshop, which is a wonderful workshops series and reading series that we've been able to fund some of those events. She's the assistant poetry editor for the Bellevue Literary Review, and she teaches expository writing at NYU. And her debut poetry collection, Devil's Lake, is forthcoming this August from Tolson Books. Yay, congratulations. And we're gonna put that link in the chat as well. And also we'll be following up with this meeting with an email to all of you who shared your emails, who wanted to be part of an email link. We'll be sharing some notes from this meeting as well afterwards, so you don't have to scurry to write stuff down. We will also email that to you. All right, Sara, take it away. And thank you so much for being our guest tonight.
Bonnie, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you to all the poets and writers, staff who are here. Thank you to everyone for attending. When we transitioned to the online realm, I think I had 2 days as an educator to professionally panic, to be I have to be the best in-person teacher ever and now the best online teacher ever. And then I kind of had to throw that out of the window and be I just need to deliver information in ways that students can, accept it and, go about their daily lives too. So I was really grateful that when I contacted Poets and Writers, I just wanted to get our craft class instructor paid, so that we could move that programming online, and Poets and Writers was yes, go for it. And it was really fantastic. That first class that Crystal Valentine taught for office hours that was online felt like the first bit of normalcy during the pandemic. And it was really wonderfully rejuvenating to log in, to see other writers' faces. And part of the office hours mission is to generate new writing in a session. And so as exhausted and kind of traumatized as I was from all these changes, it was really, really lovely to have a very, concrete prompt, and then just, follow the prompt for all these different stages. And then before you know it, you're writing. So for that, I'm very grateful. I will say that I am not an expert in things online. Maybe because I was forced to learn very quickly, I know how to do a few things. So I'm going to share a worksheet with you. But like some of you, I had never done a Google Meet or Zoom previous to this pandemic. I don't know how, but I just learned on the fly. So I'm going to share this worksheet with you. Let me know if you have any trouble viewing it. We're good. Everybody can see this. So this is definitely my personality. We should start with a meme. I think this is funny. It says writers logging into online events, like, you know what I mean, when everyone unmutes themselves or you can see their faces. Sometimes people are very close, sometimes they're far away. Every once in a while I'll be talking for what seems like 30 seconds and then I realize I'm muted. So I think we could all, you know, laugh and kind of forgive ourselves for these like faux pas. So I just wanted to start there. So when we moved online, we normally have a 2-hour-long craft class followed by a workshop, or sorry, followed by a reading of at least like 40 minutes, which would have made our programming like close to 3 hours long, which is kind of untenable if you've been on lots of Zoom calls. So we decided to kind of separate the two events. So this is just the reading portion. And we decided that anywhere between 40 to 60 minutes is kind of nice. That's really my video phone limit, no matter who it is, how much I love them. At like 60 minutes, I'm like, I'm out. I have to go. So limiting your time is really, really helpful. The cool thing that I've seen in hosting online events is that people from all across the country can attend. I did a reading for Tolson a month ago, and a friend who's in Tokyo got to attend. It was like 5 a.m. for him, and that never would have happened otherwise. So if you're hosting online events, you might find you have a huge surge in your attendance, or at least a small one, you know? And I think because people are isolated a little bit more, it's nice to build in a community component, like a question and answer session. Or there was a bespoke reading the other day where the moderator asked folks to hold up books that they're like currently reading or unmute themselves and kind of talk about, you know, their experience right now, which I thought was really wonderful, to just hear from people and what they're engaging with right now. In terms of platform, I would think about how many folks you are looking to attract and what type of event you're hosting. So for office hours events, even though I have a Zoom account, sometimes I do Google Meet, just because I feel like in general, I'm not worried about having more than 100 folks. And for me, it feels like a little bit more secure because you can, you send out a Google link through like a calendar invitation, or like I can have people email me and tell me how they heard about office hours or who they know, what is their relationship to a reader, just to kind of vet people a little bit, only to prevent, you know, obviously people who should not be attending the event, who might do something inappropriate, from entering the conversation. Y'all already hit the pro tip on the head by muting yourselves during the conference call. There's a lot of weird background noise that can happen if you don't. So the next one that's really big right now is the Zoom meeting, which we're in right now. Zoom can be really lovely. Bonnie and Ricardo did a wonderful job of just having people sign up in advance so you can screen folks. You have to log into Zoom in order to attend. The biggest thing that I would say is, if you're a little nervous about Zoom, is just never post your event link publicly. If the link itself is up on Facebook or Instagram, someone, you know, a Zoom bomber, I don't know if folks are familiar with this term, but somebody who wants to disrupt your meeting by shouting not pleasant things at the readers to entertain themselves, they'll have easy access to your link. So what you want to do is either create a Google form to have folks RSVP in advance, you know, with their full name, their email, you know, maybe I always say relationship to writing, so that they can just kind of say, you know, I'm a writer, here's my website, or I know Ricardo, we went to this poetry event once. And then there's a second feature within Zoom called a webinar. I experienced this recently. New York University does Friday events, and they hosted 4 panelists who are talking about publishing your first book. And the format is different because you can't see the other guests. You can only see the panelists, and people can't unmute or show their videos. So it seems like a much safer feature, although I think you have to add it, like it's something you have to pay for as a service. but it's something to think about if you're hosting like a larger event where you just want to not worry about security at all. And so these first couple ones like Zoom and Google Meet are really interactive. Like for instance, we're gonna have a question and answer tonight so people can unmute themselves, you know, and weigh in or talk in the chat. Something like Instagram Live is good for a single author broadcasting. And maybe other folks might even chime in, you know, after you know, in the Q&A to say like, here's my experience with Instagram Live. But as far as I know, a single author can, you know, broadcast a reading. There's no way of it being like hacked or interrupted. But that is difficult if you want multiple readers to read for the same event. Yeah. And there's a couple other apps, I mean, they're endless. Amazon Chime is a new video conferencing feature that they just created. There's something called House Party that I think like everyone's talking to me about right now. I'm like, what is House Party? And then Facebook Live is very similar to Instagram Live too. I find that the platforms for Instagram and Facebook are very different demographics in terms of age and like interests. So it's really interesting to post to both. Either way, if you're having a live event, you can record it with permission from all your authors and archive it. So folks can come back to it after the event and, you know, watch it in their own time. Great. So that's a little bit of what I have for you about transitioning online. Bonnie, I don't know if you want me to run through anything else or if we go to questions.
I wondered if you could just speak a little about sort of organizing the reading. I don't know if you've done one with more than one, you know, just sort of like the step, you know, how you did that and how you organized the reading, you know, specifically, maybe would be helpful.
Sure, yeah. So we're organizing for our showcase reading, which is going to be May 29th. So we're looking to use Google Meet to do that. And we'll probably have 7 to 8 readers. So we're going to have, I love these kind of readings where you have a bunch of people. So it feels like there's like a lot of people in attendance. And if they all bring one friend, you're like, whoa, huge crowd. And I love to hear from a reader, you know, in a tight period of time where you're left wanting more. So those are the way that these readings are designed. The current fellows from the Office Hour Workshop are going to present new work that they've written during the spring semester. So it'll be a nice time there's 2 sections of the workshop that don't really get to see each other. So it'll be a nice time for all of us to come together, hear that new work. So I'll just be hosting and facilitating. I am going to create a Google Doc to kind of vet our audience. And, you know, I will be advertising on social media and things. If anybody ever has used Canva before, I don't know if you've used this, it's a free service to create tons of social media advertisements. You can just like use their stock photos. It's completely free. So I'll do that and I won't include the link. And then the day of, we'll just have folks come and read. I might actually, instead of a traditional bio, just ask them for a series of facts. Like, I don't know, what's one thing you've done in quarantine that you normally don't have time to do? And that'll be their introduction. Just to keep it sassy and fun. And honestly, to keep it short too, because I think while it is really nice to be able to stream events in my home, sometimes I just turn off my camera, mute myself. I'm just like doing a puzzle on my coffee table, listening. I think it is also tough. We're competing with a lot of different elements, family time, and honestly, if you're Zooming all day for work, that's tricky too. Yeah.
I think if you'd like, we could open it up, and Sarah, you should take charge of this. You know, we can open it up for conversation, questions, and other people's experiences, or yeah.
Sure, yeah. What are y'all doing? Are you attending events? Are you hosting events? You can feel free.
People should raise their hand and then. Okay.
Sure, Elena.
Hi. I am both hosting a workshop and also I just participated this past Thursday in a 4-week event that is being hosted and was put together by the poet Edwin Torres.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I didn't intend to come on here and flog, but Wednesdays and Thursdays, Bonnie actually has the information because I sent her an invitation. I also have the information, but I don't have it on me or up.
Yeah, I'm sure we can archive it some way with all the other info.
That would be great. It really is quite something. In that case, it comes off a book, an anthology that he put together last spring that was published last spring called The Body in Language. So Edwin's definitely interested in exploring and stretching what we mean by language, both as a poet and in many other ways. I really think it's been pretty phenomenal these past couple of weeks. I mean, now I'm just audience, so you know, that's what I love doing. The Zoom workshop I've been teaching is my Poets and Writers workshop that has been together for years. And in fact, part of what we're discussing, this would actually be, tomorrow would actually be our last workshop. It's twice a year, 10 weeks each time, 2 hours once a week. These are seniors. When I first started teaching it or facilitating it, I wasn't. I now qualify. It matters not. They are great, and I love every single person in that group. And now I'm feeling as though I would feel kind of, normally when the 10 weeks are up, we're done. As I say, twice a year, we decide when the next one starts with Bonnie's, agreement. Now I feel as though I would be abandoning them. So I am thinking of just rolling it on. I mean, we will, in fact, I have to speak with Bonnie about the next session, which would be in the fall. I don't know if anyone else here on this, in this particular cohort teaches a workshop and has been doing so. Yeah, Bonnie?
Can I just say, it's wonderful to hear about all of the things that you're doing, but I'd sort of like to focus this on the readings because that's what Sara was here for. Like if people had questions about putting together reading series or readings, or if you had something to say about the reading that you did, and we can talk about the workshops some other time.
Oh, sure. No, that was not, I'm so sorry. That was not clear. Actually, one of the things that, well, all right. Okay. So, I mean, should I say any more about what the workshops are, the readings that Edwin is doing?
Well, there might be other people that have things to share. So yeah, let's share the space.
Sure. No, I really didn't know what this was about.
No worries at all. I mean, to quickly just answer your question, if that's okay. I think Office Hours is going through a similar thing where it feels really weird to just end things. So I asked the group. And most of them said they needed a break and that will resume in like about a month too. So we're going to go through the summer also because I think we all are really craving programming right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maria, did you have your hand up? Oh, I think you're muted. I'm going to unmute you. Okay.
I'm unmuted now. Okay. Very good. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sara. Hopefully my question does fall under the umbrella of the main emphasis of this. I published a memoir back in October. Sorry for the phone ringing. And I did not have a book launch because I was still adjusting to my memoir being out in the world and I wasn't ready. And now I feel readier by having it virtual. So I was thinking of having it and not reading for more than 20 minutes the way I would in person. I don't think one person should read for more than 15 or 20 minutes. And building in a question and answer, and maybe having a giveaway at the end. And I just was wondering if you had any thoughts about how to make it even more user-friendly than that or audience-friendly.
Sure. Yeah. And if anybody else wants to jump in too, this doesn't have to be like everybody pinging off of me either. But yeah, my collection is coming out in August, and I was planning on like being in person in an art gallery and like, you know, to be driving traffic from artists, but also poets too. And that's not going to happen. So one of the smaller things that I've done is, I think I got this idea from Michael Snyderman, is to have my publisher create book plates, which are basically just labels that you can stick inside the book so you can sign it, you know what I mean, without being there in person. So I was gonna try to have some kind of giveaway or something to be like, you know, if you purchase your copies this week, you can get a signed, you know, book sticker that comes through the mail or something. But yeah, I'm trying to innovate in that way too. I think for me, I'm gonna tap a couple other writers who have, you know, poetry collections forthcoming who I would be thrilled to read with. I think I've seen some other folks posting about fundraisers as well too, if that's in your capacity. I'm gearing up to donate the royalties from any sales in June to a specific charity. So I think any of those ways that you can interact and I guess for me, it feels really strange to ask people to buy my book during a pandemic. So if I can in some way direct some of that attention to help someone else, I feel better about it, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about doing it via Zoom or any other platform too is that they don't, not that anybody has to buy a book in person either,
Sure.
but now they really don't have to buy the book, right? Because you're just, so really is just offering it to have them be introduced to the work. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And I guess I see the Zoom launch as the first launch, the online launch, right? And then maybe when we're back in person in stages, whenever that is, maybe we can have an in-person launch also too. So maybe this is just one event in a series. Yeah.
Thank you.
It looks like we have some questions in the chat. From Beth Hadley. I'm a manager of a small rural library and our summer reading program needs to be recreated in virtual format. I'd like to arrange some readings and workshops as part of our program. So Beth, is your question kind of where to start? Like how many events do y'all often try to program?
Do you want to unmute yourself, Beth?
Let me see. Can I,
Yes.
if I can?
Yeah, we hear you. Oh,
You hear me now? Okay.
yes.
Yeah. We've had some workshops and readings before, but they're not necessarily geared towards summer reading. And we've never really done anything geared towards children or teens. So I'm wondering a lot of different things. I'm wondering if there's going to be an overload of this, because kids have been on Zoom all, you know, doing school all this long time, and how to make readings and workshops attractive to them, or they're going to want to do that. So that's part of it, and just the technological part, because I'm not really that savvy in arranging things, and some of the writers that I do know aren't that savvy about it either.
Yeah, are there folks who have kids right now who are either teaching online or experiencing online teaching as from like a parental standpoint? You can totally jump in.
I don't, but I just wanted to say to Beth that, you know, I am, you know, not at all a technical person. And Zoom is once you start, you can actually do these recorded, what do you call it, seminars, if you go to their website, you know, they're free. And I would say that is, you know, like echo what Sara said in terms of, you know, keeping it shorter rather than longer, and maybe having a writer that is particularly interested and has done work with teens before. I think it would be a different experience than a school experience, you know, to do like creative writing or so, you know, and we can also, you know, maybe we can offer some help or some suggestions as well, Beth. But I think, you know, I think it's a great idea, and I don't, you know, if I could like open up a Zoom account, anybody can. just to put that out there. So, and we can talk more about it if you'd like, Beth, to help you out, you know. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say schedule one and see how it goes. You know what I mean? When we went online, I was like, oh, we're going to try this out. We're just going to use this platform. And then you start to learn more and be more comfortable as you go along. Yeah. Great.
I have another question about what's appropriate to ask for the grant for a reading or a workshop. You know, that writers should be paid for what they do, but they don't have travel expenses like they would have had before. So what's a reasonable grant amount to ask for?
I mean, our guidelines for what we pay are the same. So for a reading, we pay anywhere from $50 to $350, and for a workshop, $100 to $200 per workshop, with a $1,500 max. We haven't changed those. Even though people aren't traveling, it takes time and energy to plan an event. And we are, you know, we have money to pay writers, especially since we had like a bit of a lag in March and April when we really didn't know what was going on. And especially, where's your library again, Beth? I'm forgetting, what county are you in?
I'm in Chautauqua County.
Oh, well, yeah, Chautauqua County is a very underfunded, from our point of view, underfunded county. So yeah, I mean, those are the guidelines for us, and we're very happy to support programs in that county. So yeah, I encourage you to sort of start to think about it. And you don't have to be an expert to do this stuff, as Sara mentioned at her beginning of her talk as well.
I might look like a young person, but I literally never use Google Meet or Zoom. So my spouse, I was like, how have you used these things? She was like, how have you not? So I literally just practiced with people. And then like a weekend, I was like, let me just like share my screen and do all these things. So I think like anything, it becomes second nature. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a great question in the chat also. Is it possible to create a shared Google Doc where folks could exchange contact information, both people looking for writers and poets and venues to have readings? I don't know, maybe you all can speak to this, Bonnie, but that sounds fantastic to me, to kind of connect people together in that way.
I might chime in here for this one. I mean, I think that something that Poets and Writers has been doing in addition to like sort of bolstering our grant program is also encouraging folks to really turn to the directory of writers. And it's something, it's free listings. There, you know, folks have to submit applications, but part of what gets listed, I'll link to it in a little bit. It's email information for writers all across the country. And I think that, you know, even though for right now in the purposes of our program, you know, we still ask that applications be submitted from organizations that are based in the areas that we fund. You can contact writers from anywhere. You know, we actually were able to fund a writer, I believe that was like reading from Germany last month. And so, you know, turn to the directory, that might be a good place. If that's like in the larger context. In the terms of this meeting, we are going to be sending emails out with everyone's contact info from, you know, from today's meeting, including like what role they play. So, you know, for example, like you would see Sarah's email address as like, you know, office hours coordinator, or however you filled out the registration form. And that's one way of doing it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would encourage folks to look at the directory. I think a lot of folks have been updating their listings, and you're able to filter by, you know, let's say, for instance, Beth wanted to find a poet that likes to work with teens, right, or has that kind of experience. I believe that the directory actually, you can filter so that it shows you the writers who have that kind of experience, or who are interested in working with specific groups. So that would be like my main advice. I'll actually go and drop that link now.
Also, just to add, you reminded me, Ricardo, that we have an online literary calendar that's free for posting, and it used to just be for live events, but we've made it available now for virtual events. So it's a way to publicize your event as well, with the other ways that you do that as well. So yeah. So we'd love to hear from others if you want to just share what you're doing, or have questions, or make comments or suggestions.
Question, Bonnie, this is Bobby. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I'm being included in an anthology. It's coming out, it was supposed to come out this spring. The publisher is in North Carolina. Can you fund a book reading if she's based in North Carolina?
Unfortunately, the sponsoring venue or organization has to be in one of our, either New York State, California, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, New Orleans, Washington, DC, Seattle. But what you could do is maybe they could partner with an organization in New York that would submit the application on your behalf. So it would be sort of that would be a way to do it, you know, if they could partner with an organization in one of our locations, that possibly could, you know, so that they would be a partner, but they wouldn't be the main person, you know, they wouldn't be the person applying.
Okay, so it's a Native American anthology. So
Okay.
I assume we can contact the Indian Center here in New York City.
Or yeah, that's a great idea. Or other places that you might know that you've also worked with. I know you've done some work in the Bronx, a bunch of work you do every year in the Bronx. So yeah,
All right, thank you.
sure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Maria, you have your hand up. I'm gonna unmute you also. I think so anyway. Oh, here, maybe you try yourself.
Okay. Oh, we're sitting next to each other. We're getting feedback. Oh.
Is that me?
Yeah. Yeah.
As long
Okay. I think we got it. What's the maximum amount would you recommend if you wanted to host? Whoa. More than one reader. For like if you wanted to run like not a series, but an evening hosting two or three authors, is that too much to do on Zoom?
No, I mean, we've had readings where there are 6 or 7 or 8 readers sometimes, you know. The maximum is 1,500 per organization per fiscal year. So, you know, I always say, ask for what you want. And if we can't do the full amount, we'll do less, you know, but, you know, go for it, you know, in terms of what you feel the writer, you want to offer to the writer. And the other thing that this reminds me of is that, you know, part of our application process, we do ask a sponsor if they're able to put in some money, whether that's a match or whether that's less or whether that's more. And right now during this time, we're not looking, we know that people don't have funds. So that's not even like, we're just waiving that. Unless of course the sponsor wants to put it in, because we're all about paying writers, but okay. Just so you know that. But yeah, so it's $50 to $350 per reading. So figure it out for yourself in terms of in what organization you're coming through. If you're going to do other events through the year, you know, be strategic for yourself in terms of planning. But yeah, go for what you think. We can always reduce it, you know, okay. If it's too much, you know. I don't want to sort of put a number on it because it really depends, you know. Unless, I don't know, Ricardo, if you want to add anything. Does that help, Maria? Yeah?
Yeah, I just was thinking also length. This is probably for Sara. What's the longest that you don't get people to tune out if you have more than 2 or 3 readers?
Yeah, I think I would very clearly set parameters, you know, like folks can read, you know, 10 to 15 minutes or something, max or something. Not that we're gonna just like mute you, you know what I mean, like end call, but like just try to respect the time limit, you know. And maybe if you're doing 15 minutes each, you have 3 readers. I think that's great. That gives you 45 minutes because we're poets, we're writers, things don't start on time usually. There's like a 5-minute grace period. People are like connecting. There might be technical difficulties. So yeah, if you're having 3 readers, I think 45 minutes is wonderful. I was gonna say, in terms of paying writers, I think it is so phenomenal as a facilitator to be able to, you know, before everything was online, hand a paper check to someone to say, you know what I mean? It's almost like, here, you're a writer. You made money from presenting your work. Like I remember I had a friend who I met through office hours who was headed to a tax appointment. And her friend said, have you ever made any money from writing? And she said, I actually have a check in my bag right now. So it feels really, really wonderful. I think that's one of my favorite parts of facilitating and being an administrator is handing out checks to people. You know what I mean? It makes it feel so much more real. And it's hard to get paid for writing very often too. So kudos to you for wanting to organize. It's great.
Well, I've been in the theater for more years than I want to count, and as being the recipient from NEA grants, yeah, after you finish that showcase, you want your check in your hand. So I'm an avid believer of paying all artists whenever I try to put a project together, because it's the value of what the person is bringing to the audience and the readers. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Ooh, we have another question. I'm gonna unmute you. Or you can feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, as Bonnie knows, I ran a reading series for 9 years called Mad Alex Presents. And one of the things, and in fact, Poets and Writers, they were one part of it. But from Jump Street, I used to stand up at that microphone. We had long readings. I won't go into the programming and why I did it. Okay. It was about shaping time with language. So you could use as little or as much of a certain period of time as you had. But I used to stand at the mic and say, you can't put a dollar value on a story or a poem, but until we can give them to landlords in lieu of rent, we must be paid. Mm-hmm. So I have, yes. So thanks. So, you too. So yeah, and of course, Poets and Writers, hip, hip, hooray. We were funded by NISCA, the Jerome Foundation, the Greenwald Foundation, and so on. But the point is, kudos to you. And this gray hair ain't for nothing. And I really am so happy when I see young people carrying on that kind of mentality. So great, well done.
Elena, I was just thinking about that when we were talking, and I think I remember you saying something like, plumbers get paid for fixing your pipes, and I don't know if I'm imagining this.
No, that's another thing. That's when people call one arty or artsy or an arty type. So I have been known to say, hey, you don't call a plumber type, and you don't call a doctor type. I'm not an arty type. I'm an artist.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I remembered it a little wrong, but I knew.
And a curmudgeon. Yeah, and Bonnie, again, may I apologize to everyone. To be honest, I didn't know what all of this was about tonight. And that was why I went on a whole other trip. I had no idea what I was coming into.
Well,
so
here
again,
you are. And Elena has been teaching this writing workshop for seniors.
Yeah, let's not talk, we won't go there, but I really am sorry.
But anyway, it's a great workshop, and it's so, it's gone through many, many transitions. The group has had people that have come and died, and this has been part of their life. And right now, these workshops with seniors are so important, particularly because it's an at-risk, along with others, population. So kudos to what you do, Alina.
It's an honor. Thank you for the support of Poets and Writers, as you know. So.
Are there other people who haven't spoken that would like to share or have a question? Not necessary, but certainly we're here to have a conversation.
It looks like Peggy has a question.
Well, it's not a question. I just wanted to share some thoughts. I agree with Sara. After about 2 hours, I don't want to do anything on Zoom. I've been teaching on Zoom. I don't want to look at Zoom anymore. So I tried, I've been trying, like Sara said, it was kind of like trial by fire because we had no other choice. So I was invited to a reading in Arizona, which was obviously canceled, and we had to do it online. And it was so strange to be on Eastern time, and everyone else was on a different time zone. So I kept screwing up the time. I had to be conscious of I have to log in at 8 and they're logging in at a different time. So I almost missed the reading because I was gonna log in at the wrong time because I'm Eastern and they're, God knows what, I don't even know what time zone people were in. So that's one thing to consider when you plan an event, Maria, since you were asking, time zones. Because people will want to log in and then, you don't post the right time zone and that causes an issue. But I learned that. I also learned about the wait time. Some people logging in, you have to give a 10-minute, sometimes 15, because people are really trying and they're not tech savvy, or they go in and they get booted out. So the suggestion that Sara had in the beginning, where it's kind of like an icebreaker and you introduce people with some crazy question. One of the organizers of the workshop asked everyone to think about what 2 animals they would be if they were, if 2 animals had 1 animal, what would they be? and that would represent you. So we were all pondering that, but we didn't realize that she was actually letting people in and administering and kind of doing all that background as we were talking nonsense, you know. But it's fun. It was a lot of fun. But we didn't realize that the time was passing, and we didn't know that she and another person were actually working the controls and letting people in. So if you can get two people that are kind of tech savvy to help you while you are doing your thing, it helps a lot. And the third thing that I learned, which I'm gonna look at again, a friend of ours, Maria and Bobby, a mutual friend of ours, Advocate of Words, he hosts an open mic online, and he's really good at time constraint and the way he manages the large crowd. He has about 55 people on the whole time, and it spans 4 hours. So he's very organized. He does what Sara said. He has people sign up beforehand, so you avoid any bombers or any kind of people that want to interrupt the reading. But the way he handled it, I was a guest and I had to stay on just because I was amazed at how he handles such a crowd. Because I was like, I can't figure all that out right now. But the way he handled the crowd was interesting. So I think if you get the opportunity to pop into people's events and kind of see what they do and learn how they do it, or ask them questions like, how did you manage that? How did you mute these people? Because he had to mute some people that were being a little too rowdy, a little too much, and he muted them. And then he also, I think, dismissed them from the Zoom. So, you know, yeah. And I was like, how did you do that? Afterwards, I contacted him. How did you do that? How did you get rid of this person that was destroying your open mic? So those are like the three things that I'm gathering from this week alone that I'm like, oh, that's a good tool to share. But I think I like the idea of sharing our networks so that if you do have an event, Sara, I would love to, you know, pop up and learn. Because
and vice versa, yeah. If anybody else is hosting an event too.
Yeah, I haven't used the Google Meet yet because I'm still, I just figured out Zoom, and then I thought I was, you know, savvy. And today I had my final class with my my students, and I couldn't find the breakout room button. So I was like, damn it, here I am being cocky, thinking I had it down, and I didn't. So then it turned into like a group discussion, and I was like, this is not what I planned. It's something to do with the controls. I didn't set it up properly. So I'm learning. And I told the class, I'm learning. I forgive myself, and please forgive me. But I think it's a great opportunity. And I would love, I know that everyone is like dying for this pandemic to be over. Like everyone's just want to get out and see people. But I think that if poets and writers gave us the ability to do this going forward, like you said, we have people logging into readings and workshops sometimes that are like all over the place. And I think that would be really great to keep as an option. I don't know if that's possible going forward, but it would be really nice to still connect with people all over the world in writing and solidarity and all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to echo you, Peggy, and say it's really wonderful to host an event with a co-host. Yes. So at least you have somebody else to be like, how do we, what's going on? You know what I mean? Especially if you're just getting into this. And then, like you said, there's ways to, if you really need to, like remove someone from the Zoom and things like that. Yeah. So
yeah, I was facilitating, and another person was trying to let people in the room. And I'm so grateful because I don't know how I would have been able to facilitate and do that for like the first 20 minutes because people were logging in late. Again, the time issue. People were like, I got the wrong time. So it was just, it's a learning experience.
Or they'll text or email you while you're doing the Zoom. So yeah, if you have a buddy who can at least do the waiting room, you can banter, you know, occasionally just like glance at your phone to make sure like someone's aunt who can't get in, you can help figure it out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was going to say too that what we did before we had our meetings was we had a rehearsal practice with our staff, 4 of our 7. It's a great thing to do to sort of get familiar how you share the documents, all the little things you can do on Zoom, practice with the chat.
Yes.
You know, you can do this, and I highly recommend that. And then just to the point, your point, Peggy, about bringing in, being able to have people from all over the world come. It's certainly, I mean, I'm sure we're going to go back to live events, but it's certainly an interesting thing to reflect upon, that how to sort of bring what we've learned here that has been sort of a blessing or a gift of this whole thing, you know, which is being able to communicate with people that maybe we normally don't. You know, is there a way, I don't know, I'm just speaking, you know, in terms of other groups that I'm part of, is there a way to, you know, in the live program to also have virtual, so that not to, so that people, because that's what this is showing us, and it's showing us how interconnected we are and how great it is to communicate with people that we don't normally get to communicate with. So who knows? I mean, I don't know the answer, but it's certainly something to reflect upon.
Yeah, Elena, it looks like you have a question. Oh no, you're still muted. There you go.
Okay, sorry again, because I've been doing, because I read Thursday and Edwin's been hosting these Wednesday, Thursdays. We had people from New Zealand, we had people from Europe, we had people, this is my mailing list, and from the West Coast and all over. And I would say this, if you're hosting readings and you can record them, that's helpful. Because then the people who, let's say, don't want to be up at 3 in the morning in wherever, Kathmandu, and can't be, could still see. I mean, it's better, I think, to have we're already not live, but I think it's cool to have it be live as possible, meaning people there when it's happening. But if people can't, it's still great to be able to maybe catch a reading at another time. So recording it is one solution.
Definitely.
Just saying. Okay, I'm done now.
So just want to make sure that everybody that wanted to sort of get their voice in this town hall round table virtual meeting has a chance, even if you just want to introduce yourself. So because we're moving on now to just about an hour, we're going to kind of close up in a few minutes. Anyone who didn't speak that wants to just share something with us, or not mandatory, but just want to offer that.
I will just say that D.E. Bentley sent a message to everyone in the chat. I'll just quote and read it out loud. As someone new to networking in general, thank you all for your voices. Great just listening in and learning from others. So thank you, D.E.
Okay.
You can chat with someone privately. Does everyone know that? You can either chat with everyone, or for those who haven't Zoomed, you can chat privately. There is that option.
Okay, so Sara, thank you so much for being our guest. Wonderful. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for the returning folks. It's Peggy and Marie and Bobby, and thanks for all the new people. We'll be sending a follow-up email to you all to include a bunch of these links that we have, and then we'll send you the link to the recording, which you can share with others. We do have one more, well, not one more for this round. We'll probably be doing more than that, but our third town hall is next Tuesday, focusing on workshops, and Alana Bell is going to be our guest. So, you're all invited, and if you know people that, that you think would really benefit from this, we've mostly been sending this out to people that have been funded through our program, but if you personally know someone that you think would benefit from coming to the other meeting, please have them email us, and we'll put them on the list. Everybody take very good care, stay connected, even though we're isolated, and we're always available. Oh, also our email, RW, I don't know if you put that on there, the general email, some of you know our personal emails, which is fine, but our general RW/East, oh, anyway, I'm probably gonna mess it up, but please email us. We're here to talk, we're here to communicate with you. We can talk on the phone as well, if that's helpful to talk, to run, just, you can leave a message, you can email, and we can find a way we can connect by phone if that's easier to, sometimes it's easier to just have a conversation, and Ricardo and I are both open to that as well. I think you're also open to that, Ricardo, right? Okay, here it is, rw/east@pw.org. Yes, it just was not slipping off my tongue. So thank you, everybody. Take good care. You all did such great work, and I'm so happy that you came and are part of this community of writers. It's really heartening. Thank you.